This very special episode of Bonfireside Chat is not brought to you by our patrons at patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv, even though they're dear to my heart. This episode is brought to you by one person, Allison Baker. Allison Baker of LegoDarkSouls.tumblr.com, Allison by proxy on Twitter, helped me make Souls of Darkness, my Dark Souls book that you can find at powerworlds.com. And because of that, you guys are getting this very special episode of Bonfireside Chat. So don't thank me, thank Allison Baker. And one more thing, there are spoilers in this episode. This is not using the regular Bonfireside Chat spoiler policy. We're going to talk about areas that come late in Dark Souls 3. Do not listen to this episode if you do not want to hear Dark Souls 3 or other series spoilers. Also, the sound quality is not quite up to normal Duckfeed standards. This was recorded on my rig rather than our Patreon stuff. So forgive us for that. And on to the episode.
Some of our landings were desperate adventures. We are now prepared to meet the inevitable counterattacks with power and with confidence.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
And my name is Allison Baker.
And you're listening to Bonfireside Chat, and it is your top 10 favorites from 80s, 20s, 1860s, and today. Allison, how are you doing?
I am just fine. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah, it's Bonfireside Chat After Dark. I think this is the latest the Bonfireside Chat has ever been recorded. Yeah.
2:30 in the morning, my time.
Yeah, we party till the break of dawn. Allison, what you drinking?
What you drinking?
I've got nothing. I'm sorry.
I
didn't know I was supposed to prepare a drink.
It is it's optional, but it is okay. I'm drinking. I borrowed this Sweet Action 6-point craft beer from Brayton that I bought for him. That has really ridiculous copy on the side. Through the madness of indefinable beer called Sweet Action that your brain cannot categorize. Like it's just really hyperbolic and stupid. And it's just ale that's a little hoppy for my taste. But that's not why we're here.
If it would help the show, I can go get a Coke from the fridge.
I think we'll be okay. But if you get thirsty, let me know, and I'll edit around it.
Okay.
So what we're doing for this very special report of Bonfireside Chat is me and Allison kind of had the idea for her reward to do a top 10 Souls areas. And I suggested I was just going to record it like I did the YouTube, and she's like, hey, why don't we do it together? And I was like, that's a great idea, because I'd rather have someone to talk to than not. So we have both come up with our top 10 Souls areas, and we're going to count them down in classic countdown fashion. I sprung this on you. How difficult was it to come up with your list?
Very difficult. I've got like several pieces of paper here that I literally just listed every single area from all the Souls games, and I'm just staring at it, crossing out some that I know won't make it, starring others, and I think I eventually whittled it down to 10 that I like.
I did something very similar. I looked at a big list of them and then just like crossed out things that I was like, oh, that's not making it. That's not making it. And then eventually just kind of moved.
Get out of here,
around.
Lost Isla.
Yeah, hit the bricks, gutter. We don't need your kind here. It is. I was remove these with reckless abandon, and and I came up with something approaching a top 10 list with one honorable mention. And I don't know that if you put a gun to my head, I would stand by this. I also don't know that it will be the same in like a month, or after the DLC, or if like you tortured me, like if you tore off my fingernails, I might change these. So these are. I just want to make like most podcasts. This is not legally binding. For me, for you, 100%. These are your final. This is going on your tombstone, whether you like it or not. Assuming I outlive you.
Perfect.
So cool. Did you have a honorable mention?
An honorable mention. Well, if I had to pick one for an honorable mention, this almost made my list. I would go with the Valley of Defilement from Demon Souls.
Very good.
Specifically the last area, because the boss fight with Maiden Estrella is one of my favorite moments in the series. So I know that's kind of a cliche thing to say, but
No, I mean it's because it's super good.
It's a cool area.
And the area control is the boss fight, because when you come in, you start getting the voiceover and the music like right away. Yeah, and just that set piece with all of the people worshiping in that pit full of dead babies.
Yeah. Yes, dead baby pit.
It's the dead baby pits.
Yeah. So it didn't make the list, but it almost did.
It very nearly made my list as well. Spoiler. That is not there.
What do you got for honorable mention?
My honorable mention is Aldia's Keep.
Okay.
Which I think is kind of a shittily designed area to actually traverse.
It's a little bit of just a straight line.
Yeah, it's a hallway.
It's one big hallway.
But I like a monster zoo a lot. I like it. And we haven't had, up until the research hall, we have not had like a mad scientist kind of layer. And I love seeing, all of the experiments that you had seen throughout the world and kind of seeing their origin, because they're in cages and being experimented on in this place.
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised that didn't make your list, because I know you like that area a lot.
It just barely got bumped. But I do really like it. It's just not, there's no gimmick to the play. I mean, if anything, it's like a little ambushy. But just barely, with the paintings and stuff. And then the Scholar version takes away the dragon coming to life unless you fulfill those certain requirements.
Yeah, you have to light every torch in the place or something.
Yeah, which is kind of a bummer, because I love going in there and seeing that dragon and having it jump at you. Like that's one of my all-time favorite Souls moments.
Yeah.
Into that guy. So what's your number 10?
Okay, number 10 is for me the Sunken King DLC from Dark Souls 2, Shelva the Sanctum City.
Ooh.
I just thought. Okay, what were you going to ask? I'm sorry.
Here, I'll cut that out.
Sure.
And what do you like about Shelva the Sanctum City?
I really like its. I thought it was a great improvement in the just overall level design from Dark Souls 2, because there's been a million conversations about Dark Souls 2 over the years, but one of the downsides I thought is the levels were pretty linear and they didn't really wind around as much. And I think that the Shelva Sanctum City was just. It reminded me a lot of classic Dark Souls 1 design, with just twisting around and overlapping itself and lots of little shortcuts. Mm-hmm. Plus, it just looks really cool. Like when you first come in there and you see the big pyramid and everything.
I love that pyramid. Yeah, and I love things in Dark Souls that have a neon glow to them.
Yeah.
So you have those statues and those bugs that walk around with the statues growing out of their back, that have that kind of black light goo.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm real into that area. Didn't make my list. But I really like it as well. It is super good.
Okay. What do you got for number 10?
The Shrine of Amana.
Okay.
Putting Shrine of Amana, which I think is really beautiful. And I actually like, when you play all these games, and I'm sure you have this experience as well, where if an area has something like a new gimmick, like something I haven't seen before in an area, I'm pretty into it. And this kind of multiple snipers covering each other section is something that is, a lot of people hated it because it's very hard. But I grew to really like it, and grew to be able to, I didn't have to cheese it, stand behind cover and shoot arrows. I can make it, and I can hear when the bullets are near and can dodge out of the way and stuff. And it's become really tense and kind of fun. And I like the bit with the singing. I like when the singing stops and, all of the there's a couple of weird interplays. There's that singing, that means safety, and then the hollows in the water are not come to life. And then there's the fact that you can't really see the ground, but if you light a torch, that aggroes them as well.
Right.
So there's kind of these little risk reward things in the area that I really like. And then I like the Demon of Song a lot from a visual standpoint at the very least.
He's one of the funnest looking bosses in the Dark Souls 2.
Oh yeah. How about your number 9?
Okay, for number 9, I've got the Nexus from Demon Souls.
Ooh, interesting.
It's a really neat hub area. I like it a lot. And specifically, the Bane in Black is a great character, and she's fun.
It didn't even occur to me to put down a hub area. I had to start over.
Yeah,
that's not true. But I didn't even think of that.
Over half my list is hub areas.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, the Nexus is great. I love that little the pit of developer messages.
Yeah, it's everything they couldn't find a place for. They just threw in that pit.
Yeah, very good. That is great. My number 9 is the Research Hall from Bloodborne.
Okay.
For much of the same reasons that Aldea's Keep got the honorable mention. That I love black science.
Right.
Is a trope in fiction that I always respond to, and I actually really like the way it's laid out, the way you kind of go up and down and up and down and up and down, unlocking those shortcuts and it's like a Dark Souls level standard. It's actually very similar to my number 1 on my list, but vertical instead of horizontal, and I think that's super cool.
Cool.
Yeah. Didn't get further. The boss is not my favorite. Living Failures is not my favorite thing.
Would you lump Lady Maria into that area? Because she doesn't really have her own area, unless you just count the clock tower room as an area.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking of her when I thought about it. I mean, if I did, then it would be. It would still probably be because this is not a top 10 bosses. It's just hard not to think of bosses.
Yeah. You kind of just lump them in with the area sometimes.
Yeah. Love that Research Hall. How about your number 8?
Okay, number 8. This is going to be fun. Is the Research Hall from Bloodborne?
Oh, hey.
I've got to echo much of what you said. It's a cool area. I really like the plip plop.
Oh yeah.
And just the idea of them hearing the water, and I was really disappointed that you didn't hear water when you put on that helmet that you can get.
So cool. I don't know why. I wish I had thought of that. That would have been amazing. It's not a helmet. It's a desiccated head. It's so gross.
Yes.
It's like the number 1 game where you wear other sentient beings' heads. It's I love that bit too. This is the flavor of that area is so good.
Yeah.
And I like an area that has a big mix of hostile and non-hostile characters. Right. So you have these little breaks to talk.
I love the part specifically where there's all the headless patients, and then you go into that room right next to it, and it's just full of the heads.
Yeah, it's the saddest short story. Mystery solved. I absolutely love that. Super good. Yeah.
Okay. Your number 8?
My number 8 is the New Londo Ruins. Man, I hope we didn't think this out. I hope that we're just ping ponging on accident. Because with the New Londo Ruins, which a lot of people talk a lot of shit about the back half of Dark Souls 1, but I think there's a lot of good stuff there. I love I love the way that this level has kind of 2 really different modes. You have this kind of ghost city with the moon reflecting in the water. The moon is the same color as the ghosts. So when you kind of swing your camera around, you'll see ghosts kind of out of the corner of your eye, and it's actually the moon, which I really love. The reveal when you get down to the floor, and it's just literally covered with waxy, waterlogged corpses for as long as you can see, is so good.
Yeah, I love the way they pile up next to the exits, in huge piles.
Yeah,
they were really trying to get out of there.
Yeah, it's so sad.
I know.
And then just also as far as a story goes in Dark Souls, I love this kind of the immediacy of the aftermath here. This has been kind of frozen in time. So whereas other things tragedies happened, in Anor Londo or what have you, but it was so long ago, that it's kind of empty. This feels like it was kind of it'd be like visiting Pripyat or something, where it's kind of stuck in time. Yeah, love that New Londo Ruins. What is your number 8?
We did my number 8 already.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's my number 7.
Sorry. What is your number 7?
Well, I'm going to say that I swear we didn't do this on purpose.
So good.
But my number 7 is the New Londo Ruins.
Yes. See, this is why we're friends.
It's great minds think alike, right? Yeah. It's a great area for all the reasons that you said.
Should let you start saying them first. So
I'm not sure what else I can add. It's just the atmosphere in there is just second to. Well, I was gonna say second to none, but it's number 7 on my list.
it's seventh to some.
Second to 6th.
Yeah, second to sixth. Yeah, good.
Yeah,
great
area.
Great area. So my number 7 is 3-1, which is the first section of the Tower of Latria. Which I think like it's a weird area because I think honestly, the Erithil dungeons from Dark Souls 3 does everything this one does like kind of better. It is it's more manageable.
It is very similar.
Boy is it similar.
It's less going back and forth looking for keys and stuff.
Yeah, totally. Like there's still a lot. It's the highest key capita in Dark Souls 3, but it is. I think it's just kind of easier and briefer, which I like. But the first time I was in Latria is the first time that Demon Souls gets scary, and just that it does a thing that it doesn't. The Erithil dungeon doesn't do is that ding, and the mind flayers have.
Yeah, just the like ringing their bells or whatever.
Yeah, which is just such a cool Pavlovian thing because it's very similar to the cell phone ding, which I love. So when I hear that in real life, when I'm playing that area, it's like, oh shit. And then they add the diegetic, like the merchant that sings. So you just like when you're around, you just hear the singing, and then you go. It's just so it's super creepy and great. And this area goes on longer than I think because everyone thinks of that cell area, but then you get down to the floor where there are those like kind of corpse ball things. This is the section with the proto Avalon. Machine gun arrow thing.
Giant arrow turret thing.
Yeah, there's like a lot there, and then you get to the doll, which is a great boss inside of this like big beautiful cathedral. It has the weird trick with the hollow there and stuff.
Right.
Like this is a great area front to back.
It's a great area.
Yeah.
It also nearly made my list, but I felt like everyone, it's like Tower of Latria, it's the best thing in the world. I didn't want to be too obvious.
It is a little cliche.
But yeah, you're right. It's a great area.
Yeah. What's next for you?
Okay, number 6 for me is Anor Londo from Dark Souls 1.
And why?
And why? Because it's Anor Londo. It's a great area. I think it's got very interesting like traversal.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I first got there, you make it to the other side of the twisty bridge, and you're just like, where the hell am I supposed to go now? Until you see that you have to kind of hop down and like run up that like buttress into the painting room. But yeah, and of course the archers, that's the classic Dark Souls 1 moment.
Yeah.
Everything about Anor Londo is great. And so like when you first get there, it's like that beautiful view, and it's such a contrast to everything you've seen so far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. Agreed. I love the archers because everyone kind of the takeaway for the archers from everyone is just kind of like, oh, it's Dark Souls being hard. It's fuck you, player. And it's like, no, it's teaching you to roll. Like it's teaching you to roll in response to sound cues rather than visual cues. Like those are there for a very specific reason. And once you pick that up, like I haven't been killed by archers since my first playthrough.
Yeah, I think my biggest trouble in that area is like not so much getting up to them. It's like once I run up the thing, like what to do with the knight, because I'm not super great at parrying. So like fighting him right there on that ledge is where I have the most trouble.
Yeah, if you can't parry him, he is tricky. A lot of times I just kind of beat him up into his shield until he fell off.
Right.
And for some reason, I have really good luck with the one behind me not being able to hit me. I know other people have a problem with that.
Yeah, usually he'll just ignore me if I just run straight for the other guy. Like I don't know, but
yeah, this is between those guys.
Yeah, we're not talking deep strategies for Anor Londo here.
Oh, I thought you said we're not talking. I thought you were saying the two knights aren't talking, so that's why he doesn't protect his buddy. Okay, I'm gonna draw a line down the side of the church.
Yeah. This side of the cathedral is mine. That side is yours.
Cool. My number 6 is Frozen Ilium Lois.
Yes.
Yeah. This is my final representation from Dark Souls 2. This is, I mean, a lot of the things you said about Shulva could apply here too. This is my favorite area from the DLCs from that. And I love that it has that the bit where you kind of recontextualize it and you go back through it, with the melt.
Yeah.
And, the enemies you've been trained to ignore, you can no longer ignore. Things like that. Like, it is just, it's really pretty and really dense and complicated, and as like the best Dark Souls levels are.
I love a good area that you have to go through twice, and it's like way different the next time.
Yeah, that's a big thing for me. I love that, and I love the opening thing, similar to when we talked about the dragon in Eldia. When you first go here and you have the big ice sculpture that's and the part of your brain that's like, oh, that kind of looks like the bed of chaos, and
Right.
it doesn't. You don't totally make it make sense until you start kind of picking up these clues that refer to this old chaos, and then like you actually get to the end of this, and it's one of my favorite like boss fights in the series. It is just super super cool. Kind of front to back. So.
Yes.
What is your number 5?
Number 5 is, for me, the fishing hamlet from Bloodborne.
Ooh.
And I really like that area. Like, it was such a departure from just everything you've seen in Bloodborne up to that point. And it just, like, recontextualizes everything with the fish people and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, the lore stuff that happens there is really like mind blowing. Like that's where that story starts coming together.
And yeah, that it also like came like right on the heels of me first kind of experiencing the Lovecraft story. What it's called, the
Shadow of Innsmouth.
Right, of course. And so yeah, I was like, it's a great area.
Yeah. I also love the fishing hamlet. I ended up just putting one Bloodborne DLC. Thing, even though I love both those areas quite a bit, and it was a real toss up for me between the research hall and the fishing hamlet, because it is
Right.
super super good. And great boss, like Orphan of Kos is one of the best bosses in the game, and yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. What do you have for number 5?
Anne Orlando. Okay. So we're doing this repetition thing, but I will say. Something I held back from saying when you had it as your pick is talk about. I almost put on this list. I almost just put Dark Anne Orlando.
Okay, yeah, we didn't even say that, but yeah, that is a really cool part of that area.
It's amazing. Like it is such a cool because it was the first time in the series that I played. There may have been other examples of this where it's like you do that thing, and I still think Dark Souls 1 is the best example of this, where it's like another video game won't let you do this thing. Like you wouldn't be able to kill this thing; it would just be immune to arrows. When you run into Guinevere, or like it wouldn't let you go fight Sif first and go down and do Four Kings, but Dark Souls rewards that instead of punishes it. And the way it rewards it is such a cool, like reveal of the story. Like the story is sound without knowing anything about Gwendolyn, without even knowing Gwendolyn exists. And then you find out this kind of like prime mover. This character has all this power. And it's a great boss fight too, as well. Like I love that boss fight. So yeah, it is. Anne Orlando's up there for me. Good stuff.
Yes.
What's your 4?
Number 4. I've got Irithyll of the Boreal Valley in Dark Souls 3.
All right.
Now I don't know how much we want to go into that, considering this is Bonfire Side Chat, and we don't want to ruin too much of the latter episodes, but.
Yeah, let's. I'm gonna put a spoiler warning at the top because I want to be able to talk about stuff, and we also already talked about the Irithyll dungeons.
Yeah.
And kind of spoil what they're about. So let's say I'll put a warning at the top, and we'll just say this is spoilerific since it's a special, and that's gonna be okay.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So Irithyll. First of all, that view when you walk in there is one of the best views in the series, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like amazing skybox, and just you can like see basically the entire level like laid out in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's specifically the reason I put it on here is the latter part of it, the reveal of where you actually are.
Mm-hmm.
Is you get up there and like I don't know how it worked out for you because you can actually like after you beat Pontiff Sullivan.
Mm-hmm.
Like, once you exit his area, if you kind of look up and to the left, you can, like, see that shit, like, plain as day. But I never looked up and to the left.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of continued, and you, like, start getting shot by archers, and I'm like, wait a minute, this seems real familiar.
You're like a reverse separator film.
Right.
You're all down and to the right. Um,
So yeah, you get past the archers, and I like wind into the room there, and I realize, wait a second, this room is like the Gwyn's tomb or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I pop out the other door, and there's the twisty bridge, and I was like, are you shitting me?
Yeah. That's my favorite moment at all in Dark Souls 3.
Right.
That's my favorite thing, and I think that's the argument for all of the callbacks and stuff. Like, this is the most justified it gets.
Right. It's the area that, like, it does it right. It's not just here's a thing just because. It's like, it's really has a cool place in the story, like with Aldrich and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I 100% think so, and it's beautiful. That's my favorite skybox. It's my favorite skybox in any video game, let alone Dark Souls. I think that is a mind-blowing area, and is Dark Souls 3 at its best. So, for sure.
Okay, number 4 for you.
1 and 3, the third section of Boletaria Palace.
Okay.
So I love all of Boletaria, but the 3 got the nod for me because it is the section with the most kind of story stuff with the fat official that kind of like taunts you through the level, which I really love. Pushing through it, this was the hardest part of the game for me when I first played, and I had such a hard time just kind of like slowly inching forward and making progress until you eventually get to that overhang where there's the shortcut, and then you see a Strava down there, and you have to take care of him, and then it ends with that like wonderful little bit of comedy with the fat official. If I wanted to just put all of, I'm kind of giving some just kind of general Boletarianness to this whole thing, and this is just the representative, but all of Boletaria, other than possibly 2, I really, really love. And I guess I just 1 and 3 really, because 4 has all dragons, and that's not that's not great. And then it has that run up to the penetrator that is just like so intimidating. Yeah. It just feels like a castle. Like I like castles and stuff, and there's nothing quite like this in Dark Souls. So I played Dark Souls first before Demon Souls, and like going back to this, you kind of get a little bit of this with Sen's Fortress, but everything is kind of ivory and elaborate and everything, and this just feels very functional and medieval, like Dark Ages, to me.
Right on. Is that also the level where you get to put on the fat official hat and trick them?
Yeah, absolutely, and get not Yuria.
Yuria,
yeah. That's awesome. That's super.
Yeah,
and you get Bior. You get the key, and you go get Bior sleeping in the cell, which super cool.
He just runs in there and basically kills the penetrator for you.
Yep. So it can solo him on his own. What is your number 3?
Number 3 for me would be Central Yarnum from Bloodborne. And that's a great area. I think it's like some of the best level design in Bloodborne is in that first area, because it's like I was saying before, it kind of harkens back to the Dark Souls 1 style of like lots of shortcuts, and like you're constantly coming back on a place and being like, okay, I know where I am now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great atmosphere. I mean, it's great. Central Yarnum.
Yeah, I really love Central Yarnum. When I was looking at like kind of my Bloodborne representatives on here, it didn't end up making the list, partly because I think there are a couple of the shortcuts that you just, will never ever use.
Right, there's a lot of superfluous shortcuts.
And that felt like a reactionary thing to me. Like, it was just like, oh, you didn't like the fact that Dark Souls 2 didn't have a lot of shortcuts. Well, here's your shortcuts.
Right.
And then I think that first street that is just like crawling with dudes is a little bit obnoxious for like repetition, like for being a thing between you and a boss.
Right.
And eventually you can get a better boss run, but I didn't have that. And I remember I had a lot of bad will from it, just from like, man, do I really need to clear out this much space every single time I fight a boss? Because every time I try to run by, I'm getting tagged, by a guy, and just it's becoming a tax on my blood vials, and then you have to, if you go that way, you have to fight the 2 werewolves as well. Like, as far as a boss run goes, like, it ends up being the wrong version. The version I was doing was bad. Eventually I unlocked the shortcut, and it was better, but I ended up getting like really loving it, but being very frustrated with it. It is a really, really great kind of thesis statement for the architecture and aesthetics of Bloodborne, though, I think.
Yeah, I really like the visual design of like Yarnum as a place. So
Yeah, me too.
It's beautiful.
It's very, very nice. My number 3 is Irithyll and / Anor Londo, which
Nice.
I feel like we talked about a lot, but so I don't have that much more to say about it. But it is that reveal, that Anor Londo title card is, again, that is my favorite moment in Dark Souls 3. So even if I knew it was coming before that, like I kind of saw things were happening, and I was just like, oh wow,
Yeah.
okay. And then when you actually go into that version of Anor Londo and you get the, you find the dead giant blacksmith, and you find the just kind of sludge that's everywhere, which I think is probably, Aldrich leavings or Aldrich kind of
Right.
matter.
Yeah.
It's just really, really neat to see what was once the, because Anor Londo really goes through kind of like 3 different stages of being like, you're presented, it's beautiful in its prime. Then you get the version of it that's like, actually, no, it's just empty, which is fine. And then you get this like corrupted version, after a long time has passed. And you just get this really full picture of this very important area. Good shit.
My favorite thing to do is to dress up like Solaire and put my summon sign right where his used to be in there.
I haven't done it yet, but I keep wanting to dress up as the Painting Guardian and then invade as the Aldrich Faithful.
Right.
Just because that would be the first, like, that could be the very first, like, super Anor Londo-y thing you see. And just be like, whoa, why is there an invader that's dressed up as a Painting Guardian? And that set's really great, and that sword is really great, now that Bleed owns. So, yeah. What is your number 2?
My number 2 is Boletarian Palace from Demon Souls, specifically 1-1.
Yeah.
And I got it on here because it was my first experience with the Soul series.
Mm-hmm.
And it started with Demon Souls, and it's very memorable. Like, I could play 1-1 with my eyes closed now. I think it's really great at like kind of teaching you how these games work. It's like of their like first levels, I think it might be the best.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It has that kind of hostility. I watched some YouTube that included a clip of it because I haven't played it in a while, and I forgot that the dragon comes through and does the kind of landing before he shows up later, which is really, showing the threat before you actually have to deal with it is really good. All kinds of weird little like set pieces in that level, like the place where our Strava is kind of like up a tree. That the Red Knight that's like patrolling that area a little bit further past him, and yeah, you cut down Stockpile Thomas's daughter from the line, the string, and then there's all the stuff with when you can go down to the lower left with the tendency and get down to that. That's really cool.
Executioner Merelda's area.
Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, all Boletaria fans over here.
Yes,
for sure. My number 2 is Forsaken Castle Canehurst from Bloodborne. Noted Bloodborne hater. Gary Butterfield put a Bloodborne area as his number 2.
Yeah, made it number 2.
Yeah, look at that. There's nothing I don't like about Canehurst though. It does everything that I like in a Soul. Like I like interior exploration. I like places where people live in these games, kind of more than I like just going through churches. And like a big evil mansion. It's always going to do it for me. I love I love snowy environments, which you get a little bit of in this. And then when you go out onto the rooftop, doing that kind of rooftop progression, reminds me of the best parts of like Anor Londo, the like making your way forward by any means necessary.
Right.
Which I really, really love. Yeah, and then this is also the scene of, you get to the boss, which is phenomenal, and then you get to Queen Annalise, and that room, which is just like so cool, with all of the Greek statues. The way you get here is really cool. The stuff with Alfred, when you bring him here, is really great. That's like the best NPC stuff in Bloodborne.
Some might say the only NPC stuff.
Yeah, I was just going to say, by an incredibly wide margin, is it the strongest, mildly more strong, than Patches the Spider. So you get a really good NPC kind of quest line that ends here. And, really love it.
That's a good area. I'm actually embarrassed to say that I forgot to write that down when I was listing it.
Where do you think it would slot if you had to guess?
I don't think it would have made my top 10, but I really do like that area a lot. I have a lot of trouble fighting the whatever you call the weird tick monsters on the outside of that place.
The worst.
Yeah, so like it starts off kind of bad, but it gets better once you get inside.
Yeah. Even just that first opening room with all the servants cleaning.
Yeah,
kind of in sync. That's a really great set piece.
Yeah, because it's a while before anything even attacks you, so you're just kind of poking around like, what's going on in here?
And then that feast room where everyone, like, the only things on the table are jewelry and riches. Like, that's just like a surreal, like, I don't actually know the story there. We had some theories when we were talking about it, as, them kind of laying it out when the executioners kind of raided the place. But, that just gets such a cool, like, things that are not food laid out like food. Is just like a little creepy and wrong, and just like hits some kind of subconscious part of my brain in a really amazing way. So we're up to the end. Dun dun dun.
Number one.
Okay. What is your number one?
Okay. Well, my number one, I really wanted to just say all of the Chalice dungeons from Bloodborne. Okay, no, joking. I'm sorry.
I don't know how I'd react to that. Like, I would have to. I mean, the way I'd react to it would be like, yeah, why? And then you wouldn't be able to say anything because there's nothing.
That's kind of why I didn't do it, because I would have wanted to have come with some kind of convincing argument, but I don't think
doesn't exist.
I could have made one.
No such animal.
No, but for real, my number one. Can I just say Lordran?
I don't know if you can. I mean, do you actually have Lordran? Are you?
No,
okay.
No. I'm joking again.
Okay. make sure it's known.
Two jokes.
Okay.
No, seriously, my number one, Firelink Shrine, Dark Souls 1.
Yeah, that's real good.
It's the perfect just little hub area, and it's got like just gives you so many options from when you start the game.
Yeah.
It's like you can go down to New Londo, you can go back into the catacombs, up to the Burg where you're supposed to go. Like, I just love that moment when you're in the parish and you take that elevator down and you're like, where am I going? Bam, Firelink Shrine. How's that possible? I've been playing for 3 hours.
It is, that is wonderful. And it's nothing, the series hasn't done it since.
I think like the closest thing to that would be like in the Forbidden Woods when you take the ladder up and you pop out right by Yosefka's clinic in Bloodborne, and you're like, whoa.
Well, you get a little bit of that like whoa kind of moment, but Central Yharnam. I mean, I guess Central Yharnam is really big, so it's not a hub area, and does split into a bunch of different areas. But having your first area just kind of go to, because that's one of the things. Like, as much as I do really love Dark Souls 3, like I wish it was less linear than it is. And, when people were just like, man, we want that interconnected world back, we want it back so bad. And then we got this kind of a hallway with just a couple little tributaries. Firelink as an opening area that is literally like, and what I love about that, because if I had thought of hub areas, it would have been on my list too. Because it is, you have a way you're supposed to go. Both other ways work. Like, I've done, like my archer run, I went down to New Londo to get the compound bow. Right out of the asylum, and then all the times I've speed ran, you go down and you get the Gravelord sword. You do that right away. It's all, and then New Londo also goes to Blighttown, so it's like it really opens up into 4 areas right from the top, and then 5 once you get that shortcut. That's so good. And like 6 because you go through the Valley of the Drakes and you get right to Darkroot. Yeah, it is the best. Like, that is the best world design in the series by so much.
I love that you can plop yourself down in Firelink and like fight Quelaag within 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like, if you know where you're going.
Yeah, it is. It's the best. That's like a Souls thing, and this is the game that most, or the area that most kind of delivers on that promise. So that is a very good choice. And I wish I hadn't forgotten about hub areas.
Plus great music.
Oh yeah. I think it's the best hub area music.
For sure.
Yeah, because the other ones, like I like all of them a little bit. But none of them I like quite as much as that. A lot of people were saying the Bloodborne one is as good. I don't think so.
No, I would second place. I'd give Majula. I actually really like the Majula theme
I
song.
do too. Yeah. There's a guy on our Facebook page who spent a lot of time kind of arguing about how bad the Majula music was. We said we liked it, and that's a non-starter, buddy. Like, it's okay. You just don't. Like, you're not going to convince me not to like it. But I think the Majula music is great, and the Majula also is, the prettiest of the hub areas.
Yeah,
So
I was close to trying to fit it on my list, but
yeah, Majula is great. And then once all your friends kind of show up eventually, I just wish those friends had more personality. If you took the NPCs from Dark Souls 1 and had them show up back at Majula, it would be like the ultimate beach house party kind of thing.
Yeah. Going back to Firelink, though, I also really like the kind of mid-game moment when you go back there and, tragedy has befallen the Firekeeper and your fire's out.
Yeah.
That's just such a great, they take that area of safety and, now you don't have it anymore.
That's really, really good. And you do it by helping somebody, which is really important, because that's a really kind of powerful statement about how this game is different than other video games. You can't trust everybody. Yeah, it is. That's wonderful. That's a better answer than mine. So mine is the Painted World of Ariamis, which I've said that was my favorite before, like many times. And it is. I think it is the distillation of the one bonfire level design. It's my favorite articulation of just doubling back on itself. When I said that the research hall was like a vertical version of something later on my list, this is what I was referring to. Because the same way you kind of shuttle run upwards in the research hall, you kind of shuttle run forward in the Painted World.
Right. You used that as your example in the in that talk you gave at the Kosai thing, because once you open up all the shortcuts, it's literally a straight line to the boss.
Yeah, and you can just make it just really elegant. There's a huge variety. One of the things that I love about this too is that a huge variety of weirdness in this area. Like the Phalanx shows up. This is where you first run into Xanthus King Jeremiah, which I had not played Demon Souls, so this is the first time I saw the gigantic yellow kind of headdress thing, which was awesome. The dragon on the bridge, like the half dragon, is kind of, or the undead dragon on the bridge. It becomes a half dragon, which has that weird glitch, but the undead dragon on the bridge, where if you didn't go to the I already saw one of these things, so it was a little bit lessened. But I love that guy there. And then the Hollows come back here, and something Dark Souls does really well, and I think Dark Souls 3 does really well actually, with the little thralls, where enemies scale. So you fight Hollows and they're no big deal, but then eventually they introduce the Crystal Hollows, and then they introduce these guys like the Bloated Tick Hollows. And that's something they do with the thralls in 3, but I really like that in there, and they're really tactically interesting. It's like you can destroy them, but you can't get close to them when you do it.
This could also be your first experience with bone wheels.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Very easily. You can get to it really quickly. Even just the way you get to this is so weird and mysterious. And cool. That's when you do that thing in the sewer and it turns the statue. It feels like a D&D kind of thing to me in a weird way that I like. All these questions with the environment, like all these broken cages on the ground. What was in those?
Yeah, it almost looks like they just kind of materialized and just fell straight down.
Yeah,
a big pile of them.
I think that's what we landed on. Is this, since this is the place where this is the oubliette.
Yeah, it's just it's just people that are just throwing cages into the painting.
Yeah.
It's like Mario 64 level. They're just throwing stuff.
We thought it was its own thing, but it's really the Dark Souls 1 version of the gutter. You just throw all your discarded experiments in there.
Whatever they don't want, just toss it in there.
It's also the home of Velka, which is the more time that passes, Velka ends up becoming one of my favorite parts of Dark Souls 1, because it's the least kind of understood of the things. All of the things about Velka, or a lot of the things about Velka are theories still, so there's just degrees of surety, and I like that a lot, that you can't totally be sure, but there's just kind of this evidence and you can kind of follow your gut. So Velka's a good litmus test for Souls.
Cool. I don't know how much truth there is to it. I'd heard somewhere that was the first area they designed when they were making Dark Souls, and they kind of just designed it as its own thing, and then later, tried to find a way to like keep it in the game.
That's true. It used to be Nito was who you fought there. And then there's the little bit where the centipede demon used to be on top of the belfry, where the gargoyles are, which is insane.
Right. Yeah,
but yeah, the idea of fighting Nito at the end of this, because it would have been a cool like domain of death. Like I like Tomb of the Giants just fine, but the idea of like death. I mean, death wouldn't be locked away in a painting, but death as a kind of cold dead castle. Would work. But I like what they did with it as well. And then also like Priscilla is such a good gimmick boss. Because she's not that hard. It's just like a little cute puzzle. It's like a Metal Gear boss almost. Yeah. The footstep thing seems like the kind of like a Kojima detail to me, almost. So good all around. Yeah. Is any regrets now that everything has been said out loud?
Oh boy. No, I think I'm pretty happy with my list. Mm-hmm. I wish I could have put more things from Dark Souls 2 on there, because it's not that bad a game.
No, it's definitely. I mean, the stuff I have on there, honestly, like it is on the lower end of my thing, other than the DLC, because the DLC are the strongest areas.
I would say Dark Souls 2 would make it in my top 5 Souls games.
Yeah. The more the time that passes since Dark Souls 3, and I know that this is not something that you agree with, but like the more time that passes, I'm digesting that and thinking about the other games. For me, it is really just like Dark Souls 1 and then a 4-way tie for second. Like It's all like I like all those other games for different reasons, and none of them have gotten perfect. Maybe the closest one would actually probably be like Demon Souls. But then even that is like has a little bit of clunkiness, like that has that nightmare upgrade system. And there are lots of things not to like about it, but none of them are quite perfect. And even when they end up averaging out, like something like Dark Souls 3, where I feel like with bosses and areas and stuff, like that's such a B+ kind of experience. Like there aren't very many areas that I'm like, whoa, other than Erithil and Orlando, which is like that because of Anor Londo.
Right, yeah, that actually surprised me. Like when I was writing everything down and I had the Dark Souls 3 list down and I'm just staring at it like, what am I even gonna? I got to put something from here.
Yeah, it's because a lot of the stuff that's cool is just like kind of a rehash, and I don't say that to be flippant. I mean, like Lothric Castle is amazing. It's really fun to play through, but it's just Boletaria too.
Yeah, right.
So it just and it none of it. There's only a couple areas in that game I think are bad. Almost everything is really good. It's actually, if I had thought about it, I think at some point when I was conceiving of this, I was thinking about being spoiler free. If I had thought about it, Untended Graves might have made it on my list. As much as I find it annoying, as a question, it is a question that I spend a lot of time thinking about.
Right.
And that is a real good moment too. Like when you realize where you're at, like I'm still not convinced what it means or that it's going to be an adequate answer when I find out, but it is a cool moment when you find it.
I don't know if you've watched or heard anything about Epic Name Bros playthrough that he's been doing on YouTube, but when he got to Untended Graves, he just lost his mind. He thought it was the greatest thing in the history of Souls. He was like, this is the best thing they've ever done.
So somebody on Ask FM was saying like, hey, it's real interesting to watch Epic Name Bro do his playthrough and then listen to you because he started out disliking the fan service and now he really loves it. And then other people told me that's not true. Is kind of a misreporting of him. But I was wondering like why they thought that, and that's probably why, is that he probably was talking a lot of sugar about that specific kind of bit, and kind of coming around on the game in general. But whereas other people have been like, no, if on the whole he's still kind of annoyed at some of the same things you were annoyed about. But yeah, I like him. I don't want to watch the Let's Play. It's like a whole Let's Play. I don't have time for that shit. I do like 1,000 podcasts.
Yeah.
I just had to play, like, I've spent 70 hours in New Vegas.
Hey, so what better way to spend 70 hours?
No, it's great. I have the greatest job, but it is, I can't watch Let's Plays. So I miss, EMB's, like, lore stuff. Like, when he would just kind of sit down and do, focused videos on stuff.
Yeah.
I understand why he doesn't, but I miss that. And then the shit he gets from people online is remarkable. Like, that's crazy. Really unfortunate.
Can I add one more honorable mention.
Yeah, you gave me a bunch of money for Kickstarter, so yes.
While we're here, and the only reason I'm actually adding this is because I didn't write in about it for your recent episode on the Undead Settlement.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say Undead Settlement from Dark Souls 3 is an honorable mention, solely because when I played the game in Japanese the first time and used Google to translate the name, it told me the name was Immortality Street. And that is my favorite thing from Dark Souls 3.
It's like that Square Enix game. I really like Immortality Street. That's real good. Man, am I looking forward to an entire year of people telling me I have no soul because I don't like Sigurd.
He's all right.
Yeah, he's fun. He's a fun guy. Yeah. Anywho, this has been fun. Did you have fun?
Yes, very much.
I think it was fun. Hopefully, people who are listening also had fun. If you, so no normal admin stuff, because as I said, this is fully sponsored. This is brought to you by Allison Baker, because she helped me make Souls of Darkness, the book. Yeah.
Hey, by the way, that's a good book.
Oh, thank you. I'm really glad you like it.
You should buy it. With or without page numbers, it's still a good book.
That is, I can't remember if that ended up in an episode. If not, I will just officially say how stupid I feel about that. It is just, it was really coming down to the fact, and I talked about this on Twitter, but the printer is in French Canada, and we were going back and forth. I have dozens of emails back and forth where they were telling me that they were sending me a final copy of what the cover would look like, but it was actually a low-res sample, like a low-res like kind of proof, and they didn't. And I was like, "Is this really what it will look like?" I wasn't using the lingo because I haven't done this before, so I wasn't saying, "Is this a low-res proof?" I was saying, "Is this what it'll look like?" And they're like, "Yes." And I'm like, "Oh, and I kept going back and forth and trying to find ways to fix it. In the middle of that big long email exchange, they're like, "Hey, will you just improve the interior?" And I'm like, "Yes." Like they were like, "Hey, we want to get started." And I'm like, I was already nervous about how long it was taking to come out, and I just said yes to it. And it was a version that I had fixed because I had to put in page numbers in a different program than the one I used to lay it out to make them start not on the first page. So it was I felt super stupid, and it was a real nightmare.
Well, I don't want to put the blame on the publisher, but like it seems like if you're in the business of publishing books, you might give somebody a heads up, like, "Hey, don't you want page numbers?"
I would think so too. It was kind of like they were a little bit hard to work with. Like I actually like the way the book looks, and the page.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. Like the presentation is beautiful.
I thank you for the parts that I had to do with that. I like the way it looks, and the way that I justify the page number thing to myself, other than the fact that like you just can't beat yourself up, is like one, you can really read it in 1 or 2 sittings anyway.
Right.
Like it's really, really slight. It's a children's book, so like, and then 2, if I get another printing, which I've sold 1 box, woohoo. If I make another printing, I will just fix it, and then I can have like a now with page numbers thing, which
These are like rare first edition misprints.
Exactly, which may be the only edition. Don't let that stop you if you do like it. I'm not trying to turn this into a commercial. I'm glad you like it though, Allison. So
well, that's where this podcast came from. So I thought we should give it its fair due.
Yeah, yep, that is So there may be some other stuff. Some other people also have the podcast level and may end up doing something similar to this. I don't know exactly what, but I will keep you updated. And and thanks everybody for listening. Allison, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your support. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for everything. I appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure.
Yay. So until next time, what should they do, Allison?
They should think really hard on what their top 10 Souls areas are and then let us know.
Umbasa.
And we all pray that we will have far more soon